Are you wondering what it would take for your child to actually have the emotional regulation skills that they could avoid a tantrum before it starts? There's a very specific set of skills that really help. So, a lot of people will talk about how when children get to a certain age, until children get to a certain age, they're not going to be able to regulate their own emotions. And we also hear people talk about how children need a certain level of practice at co-regulating before they're going to be able to regulate their own emotions. And while I think that those things are true, I also think that there's an opportunity for us to build a skill set in our child that means that things that could make them upset and land in a tantrum can be handled with emotional regulation skills. And so there's a difference between expecting that a child will be able to consistently use a skill and giving them the space to practice, giving them the ability to do these things, and seeing just how often they can actually get it done when they have the capacity and they've had the practice. So if I think back to my now 8-year-old, when she was very, very small, and I'm talking, I reckon, 2.5, I think she was at the time, when there was a day where I had finally been able to get my younger daughter into sleep in the cot. Long and involved story, that didn't happen very often. But I really just needed to get the dishes done. And you know when something isn't important, but it's really important, I just really needed, for my own self, I needed those dishes to be done. And so in a reasonably cranky tone of voice, I told Alyssa that she needed to stop banging something on the coffee table. You know, at that time, the coffee table we had really needed to go in the rubbish. It was terrible. So it wasn't about the coffee table. Whatever, I don't remember what she had, but it wasn't a precious thing that she was banging. The issue was it was the noise of the banging, and I really needed to get the dishes done, so I couldn't go and do something else and get away from the noise. And so in a relatively cranky voice, I said, Alyssa, please stop banging. It's hurting my ears. Bit crankier than that, but similar tone of voice. And Alyssa, at the ripe old age of 2, said to me, no, mummy, I like to bang, you get headphones. Now, when I tell that story, some people find that disrespectful that she spoke like that. But for me, I was like, did the 2-year-old just solve this problem better than I have? So something that, telling somebody to stop doing something they wanted to do when they were a toddler, and I was a pretty cranky voice, that was the kind of thing that might have sent her into a tantrum at the time. This was at a stage where I was learning how to use the skills that I now teach. And so for me, it was this amazing example of a child being able to go at a very young age, being able to say, hey, there's an option that would work for both of us. And I'm going to talk today about the skills that I had practiced with her that gave her the presence of mind to be able to go, well, we can both get what we want here. Neither of us needs to miss out here. We can both be happy. So the first skill is emotional awareness. So in emotional awareness, what we want to know is, can they figure out what is going on for themselves, and be aware that their emotions are shifting. So in this case, it happened very quickly, so I don't know what feelings were coming up for her. It might have actually been hope and happiness because she could see a way forward, right? But whatever happened, it was like, actually, I want to keep doing this. Some of the ways we can do emotional awareness day to day, I highly recommend looking at tying your child's physical sensations to the emotions that they're having. So whenever they are having positive emotions or negative emotions, tying the physical experience to that. And the reason for that, it's much, much easier for a child and also an adult who's learning about their own feelings to notice a physical sensation that has changed rather than noticing an emotional shift in themselves. So you might say things like, oh, I can see that your hands are quite clenched. Does that mean there's something going on for you? Or you might, when they've just told you that they're angry, it's like, I'm angry. And you're like, I can see that in your face. Your eyebrows are really close together, right? So you're just making a connection between the physical sensation and the feeling. And as I mentioned, put that in for positive emotions as well, because a lot of the time we don't talk about the nuance in positive emotions, which does 2 things for us. One, it helps your child to learn more about what does and doesn't work for them and why, so they get better and better at making good decisions when there isn't a problem, rather than just focusing on emotional awareness when there is a problem. The second thing it does is that it means that your child is more consistently paying attention to their emotions. They're not waiting until something feels like it's on fire before they pay attention to how they're feeling. So we want to do that both positive and negative. So that's something that you can do day to day, just building that emotional awareness. The next skill that they need is to be able to recognize that the feeling they have is tying to a need that they have. So if we think about a really common example, might be a child refusing to brush their teeth. Their feeling of anger about being told that they have to brush their teeth right now, what we want them to be able to do is connect, is that anger about not having a sense of control over whether they can or cannot do something? Is it about not having a sense of why they need to do something, and therefore it just feels like a bit of a power struggle because, why do we have to do it your way? Why can't we just skip a night here and there? It can be a sensory issue that they don't like the sensation, and there's levels of sensory issues, like there's everyday sensations that any of us don't like. And then there's also things where some of us have higher sensitivity around certain types of sensations. And then there's the extremes cases where a child really has sensory processing disorders or real tough times with things that are particularly sensory, right? Now, so you can see how that's just 3 examples. There's a lot more examples as to why somebody might be angry about being told to brush their teeth. But we want to get your child in the habit of being able to connect. It's not just about the feeling, as what does the feeling tell us about the need? The reason that's so important is 2 reasons. One is, so if you've got that argument about the toothbrushing happening, if you're focusing on making it fun, that is not going to change. If the real issue is about a sensory problem, fun may help, If it's about, I don't understand why I have to do it, making it fun may help. Can you see how it's like we might be able to shift some of the problem if we're if we're just looking for solutions. But if you can get to the actual need, all of a sudden there's a million options to solve that need. And I know that sounds excessive, but I believe it. But if you cannot find a million possible solutions, not to say that your child would accept all of those solutions, but if you can't find a million possible solutions to the problem that you're having, chances are you haven't gotten to the need. You're more at the surface level, like, well, he just doesn't want to, something along those lines, right? We haven't gotten to the need if we're in a stuck place where we don't have options. That gives us a chance to actually explore what solutions do we have, right? Then the third skill that we need is actually trust, and it's a specific type of trust. It's trust that your child trusts that there's a good chance the problem can be solved. They don't have to believe that the problem will always be solved, and they don't have to believe that this specific problem can be solved. They need to have trust that there is a good chance that they can actually find a solution, because otherwise the feeling that this need is not going to get met, I can't fix it, it's not going to be solved, that will get, not always, but oftentimes will get either more and more intense, or it'll stack there waiting for the next problem to happen, and then eventually they'll have too much in their emotional backpack, and that will spill over into a tantrum. Now, that trust actually gives you time to explore some options. So if we think about the toothbrushing example, let's say your child it's a sensory issue and they just really don't like the sensation of it. Then you can think there may be lots of different ways to get through that. If you suggest, why don't we put a song on, because that might distract you from how it feels on your gums, to have the toothbrush on your gums. If your child doesn't have trust that we will be able to get through this, we'll be able to find a solution, then if they think that that solution that you've proposed, or an idea that they have, isn't going to solve it, they get straight back into that spiral. This is not going to get fixed. I'm stuck. This is horrible. And it puts them at risk of going back into a tantrum. So we want to have that trust. And how do we get that trust? By just as often as we can getting to a solution for what they need. So it's, as often as we can, we want to get to a place where the solutions that we're coming up to, the problems that come up, we find a way that works for both our child and whoever else is involved. So it might be our child and us, it might be all the siblings together, it might be them and their friends or their other parent, whoever's involved in the situation. We want to find a solution that works for everyone involved. The more often they've seen that when I pay attention to my feelings, when I use that to figure out what I need, and then when I try and find a solution, I know that it's possible that it will work. The more often that happens, the better chance they have of having trust. Now, how many times do you need to go? Entirely depends on your child's temperament, their age, their developmental stage, what other experiences they've had about their feelings. There's not really a way to say how we build that trust, how long we have to go until that trust is built. But we just keep depositing in the we're going to find a solution as often as we can until we hit that tipping point that your child is okay to say, I don't know how we're going to fix this, but I feel like if we keep talking about it, we probably will be able to fix it. So then our fourth skill that we need is actually to be able to mourn. And when I say this is about recognizing that we're not going to be able to find a way to get the need met right now. And being able to process that doesn't mean my needs don't matter. It doesn't mean that I'm not important. There's not any baggage to be created around this. It's just a case of it really sucks that I'm just not going to get that need met. Being able to process that and being able to move on means that your child then, on those occasions where we cannot find a way to get the need met, either it just can't be done, or we don't have enough time or energy to find a solution, or we just cannot find a way that works for everybody, we want to get to that place where we can process the difficult feelings we have about us not getting what we need. Once we know how to do that processing, that means that they don't have to have that tantrum at that time, but it also feeds back into that trust, because they're not then having an experience that's like, oh, well, sometimes I just don't get what I need. It's like, yeah, well, most of the time we can make it work out. And when it doesn't work out, when I don't get what I need, it's going to be okay. Right? And you can see that's very different. Vast majority of people talk about resilience as though it's like you should be okay with not getting what you need. You shouldn't get upset with not getting what you need. And I disagree with that. I think we should be getting upset when we're not getting what we need. It's just that the way we want to get upset is notice what the feelings are telling us. Get that to point to what need is not being met. Looking for a solution, right? And so that's what we want to focus on. And these 4 skills together are what will help your child be able to not have the tantrums in the first place. So this means that you don't have to be able to help them to calm down, because they know how to avoid the escalation of feelings. So for all 4 skills, we start out by us doing the work. We're the ones helping them build their emotional awareness. We're the ones helping them identify the need. We're the ones helping them build trust in the process. We're the ones helping them to mourn. Over time, we want to get to a place where we are supporting them to do it. So it's like a joint project. And then we want to get to a place where they can do all 4 of those things themselves. So then, even then, we still don't want to expect a child to be able to consistently do it. But the more practice we give, the more they'll be able to do that themselves. So which means they can do it at daycare or at school. It means they can do it with the other parent. They can do it with their siblings. It means that overall, they just get overwhelmed less often. So I've given you some strategies to get started on this, but if this is something that you really want to embed into your parenting, you really want to make sure that those 4 skills are getting the practice that they need, so that you can help your child and then they can learn how to do it for themselves, then I recommend jumping into my program, Confident Connected Parenting. In this program, we are going to go through each of those skills and really look for what are the practical ways that we can get those things happening in your day-to-day parenting. So we're not going to add, it's not like I'm going to say to you, you need to spend an hour of quality time with your child every day and, or adding all these things in. We're just going to use your day-to-day parenting experiences, the things that are frustrating and stuck in your day. We use whatever experience you have as a chance to practice these skills. And so in Confident Connected Parenting, you get the modules to go through the skill sets and how to apply those with your children. And we have live Q&A calls so that you're able to ask your questions about, hey, I tried this and this is where I got stuck. This is what my child was doing, but I'm not really sure where to go next. That's in those live Q&A calls. That's where you can say, this is what's happening for me, and I can give you some personalized advice to help you really embed the skills so that not only are you able to do it for your child, but then they're building those skills to be able to do it in their whole lives. Like right now, it'll be daycare or school and the other parent and their siblings. But over time, these are the skills that they're going to be using in their romantic relationships, in their workplace relationships, their friendships. Like these are the skills that they need to really get to a place where they can create a life that they're really happy with and have those close connections. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can check the program out at jodiethornton.com/confident connected parenting. And please let me know if you have any questions about today's video.